Right. Welcome to episode number 110 of the Take Flight podcast. And this is a very, very, very special episode. Now, as you may have guessed from the title, with it being a Take Flight Talks, this is our third ever interview with a very special guest, a man with many talents who's not just an entrepreneur, he is an award winning entrepreneur. He's also a co author, a YouTube extraordinaire, and a raising finance king. But most importantly, he is a good friend of the Take Flight podcast team. Now, we have, of course, the honor today of being joined by none other than Mr. Alfred Dzadey, founder and director of Real Property Ventures, an entrepreneur and investor with a focus on real estate and SME acquisitions. Now, Alfred's background, he previously served as a contracting project manager at Jaguar Land Rover. He is currently the founder and director of a property business, Real Property Ventures, a company that specializes in the acquisition, development, and letting of affordable, high specification co living accommodation in the UK. And most recently, he won the New Property Investor of the Year 2021 award by Property Investor Awards in the UK. So, big congratulations to Alfred. Now, he's also ventured into the mergers and acquisition space, and he's looking for profitable businesses with revenues between 3 to 5 million a year to acquire in the haulage industry. Now, just from that intro, you can tell that there is a lot to get into in this discussion, where we will discuss Alfred's journey from his younger years to becoming an entrepreneur and investor today, his why for real estate and the type of deals that he does, plus his future plans, and much, much more. Very, very exciting episode. So let's get into it.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
Hi, Alfred. So welcome to Take Flight podcast. As you can probably tell, we are all very excited to have you on. And the audience, they've already heard an intro at the beginning, but how would you describe your journey in your own words?
Yeah, it's been a long one. First of all, let me come back and say thank you guys for obviously inviting me on here. I'm a listener of your podcast. I think you guys are doing amazing stuff, and obviously would always support it. So I'm grateful to be on here. But yeah, so my journey in terms of kind of taking it back a bit. My background is aerospace engineering. That's what I did at university. Coming out of that, got a job at Jaguar Land Rover. Wasn't really planning to necessarily kind of go into the automotive space. It was just a job I kind of applied for, and they hired me, and hence I went to where the money was, basically, to put it simple. So for me, yes, I was fortunate in a sense. Literally like a month after my exams, got this contracting job, and again, starting out is quite challenging to even get a contracting job. But I had that determination because I had two people in my uni that had got jobs at Ford as contractors. And obviously, the pay as a contractor is higher than a graduate salary. Any engineer will tell you this, facts. So for me, I was like, if they can do it, I can do it too. I need that contract pay, so I'm trying to secure that. So that was my kind of direction in terms of looking for contracting jobs. Landed this job. The manager liked me, simply want to take a chance with me. Saw my ambition, saw my drive, and that was really it. So shout out to Ian Wallace. I always say shout out to him because he's the guy that got me started, if anything. But then I think year one or year two into working, it was like, okay, great, making good money, enjoying some holidays here and there. But for some strange reason, I had never to that date actually looked at what's my earning potential in that role. And it's only when I wanted to kind of look to try and make more money, I'm like, okay, cool, what's the next level up? Because I can't keep on this pay. So that's when I kind of researched into like senior project management, what's the salary, and trying to kind of get to six figures. How are we looking at? And I was like, no way. 5 years, I push. If you're maybe moving diagonally across companies or within the company, maybe you could potentially push it. But generally speaking, you're looking at 10 years minimum. I'm like, I'm not waiting 10 years to hit six figures. Like, people are.
Guys, by the way, to the listeners, you will see a lot of common threads in Alfred's story. So just follow the threads.
I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm waiting 10 years to see 100 grand a year. That's people that are earning that a month, a week even. So like, for me, it was about pushing the boundaries. What can I do to better myself? For me, my initial thought was, well, I always talk about property as being a retirement vehicle. So I took upon myself. I actually got into contact with a few friends who've all kind of got jobs as well, and we're all in the working space. And also the same thing, like job is great. Obviously now it's about how can we keep increasing the income level. We don't want to maintain that income thing we're set for life. We want to keep pushing that up. And they all said the same things. Like it's a bit hard, like to kind of, because I've seen people around me, especially at Jaguar Land Rover, who are quite old, and they've all been there for like 10, 20, 30 years even. And haven't really, like, for them, they've been okay. They're settling for that. But for me, I've always aspired to be wealthy young. So it was pushing that boundary, trying to find information. And yeah, for me, a lot of it was me taking action myself to go away in the evenings, spend time doing research, learning about things, getting exposure, all of that. So speaking to my friends, we kind of brought property back up and said, look, let's find out how to do this stuff. And a friend of mine, Tabo, he actually found this 2-day, was it 2 day? No, it wasn't 2 day. It was like a 2-hour free seminar through this company, his property education company. Went there, liked what they heard, signed up to the basic training. It was like a 3-day basic training. There was another upsell on that to go on advanced training. And for me, that was a turning point. So it was this big decision point of, well, I've got this money sat here whereby I can use to invest in myself. This is the course was 25 grand to kind of go in this advanced training to learn about property investment. And for me, it was like, okay, great. Sounds like a great opportunity. Resonates with me. All of it makes sense. The only big hurdle is now, this is literally all I have in my bank account. So if I'm about to enter a bank account to kind of acquire this information and back myself, basically. And for me, I kind of, at the time, it's always a hard decision at the time. Like, this is all I've saved. Do you know what I mean? It's my hard-earned money saved. But I kind of broke it down to myself. Okay, Alfred, realistically, you're still young. You're going to make the money back regardless. You're going to spend on holidays. You're going to spend 25 grand on holidays. You're going to spend 25 grand on takeaway. You're going to spend 25 grand on alcohol, clubbing, all that stuff. So there's so many ways I can cut it, chop it, whatever. So it's like, okay, just spend the money now and let's just see what happens. Take a chance on yourself. And for me, I can happily say it worked out for me. Can't say the same for everybody else, but I think it all comes down to you as an individual. How bad you want it? How bad are you going to take away that information and actually implement it? And for me, that's what I did. And for me, people are like, oh, when I first did it, I was like, why the hell would you do it? 25 grand, you could have gone and bought a house. Or I'm like, so what next? No, we bought a house, then what? You're not any smarter, you're not any wiser. You're still in the same position, the same knowledge base, same network base. So for me, it was, I wanted to be in a new circle. I wanted to be around certain people who are in that space doing it day in, day out. And for me, this was my way in. So I paid to get in the circle. For me, it worked out, built a network, went on to then literally get into, again, strategy-wise, I chose to go down the HMO. I'm sure we'll go into more detail about that in a sec. But HMO is the route I went down. Again, starting out, told not to go in that route, but it was about how do we overcome that? How can we make it happen? It's always the mindset shift of not limiting yourself, but asking who can or how can we, and trying to figure it out. And I'm grateful for my engineering degree, because that's the mindset you're taught day one. You're taught to kind of problem solve, you're taught to overcome problems. Nothing's impossible. There is always a solution. If you chuck resource, money at it, whatever, all the minds in the world together, it can be done. It's just how bad you want it, basically. So fast forward to today, built a good portfolio of properties in Coventry. It's where my investment area, mainly city center location, is where I look to focus at. And now fast forward a bit more, I'm now looking at acquiring some businesses in the haulage industry. So that's come about because I've got to a position whereby I've got a foundation whereby I can have now in effect for myself time. I can employ people. I can now leverage them to free myself of more time to be able to go away into that industry, to learn more about that industry and hopefully become an owner of a company in that industry. So that's where I'm at today. A lengthy intro. I hope you got the message.
You skated through so many gems, and this is why we have you on today's podcast. And we're going to dive into those pieces. But incredible story, sure.
Nah, great. I think I mean we could, based off of the intro and just that intro, Alfred, we could probably already shut down this episode already, and there's been a lot of value already shared. But no, I think he's already mentioned some common themes. I think the curiosity about the environment, raising the ceiling, chasing the bag, ambition and action, investing in yourself, and of course a major shout out to Ian Wallace. But I think with all of that, let's dig into this and ask a few more questions. And we have got a good few questions within the group, Alfred, to unpack everything that you said. So I think P, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, I think the first question, naturally, for those who don't know much about your profile, generally help us understand for you why real estate, and then you spoke a little bit about HMOs. Why HMOs versus other type of real estate deals, and I think that would be good to understand how you think around that.
Okay, so very simply, property. So with the research of looking at earning potential, I then looked at, okay, if I was looking outside of that in terms of property, what are like the wealth people? What are they doing? How have they built wealth at a very like young age or older age, whatever? And if you look at the wealth people on the planet, they all have some sort of fundamental, like literally most people have some sort of real estate in their portfolio. So for me, it was a common thread across all the people that are building their wealth. And for me, I'm trying to imitate. I'm not trying to recreate. I'm not a genius. I'm not trying to claim to be a genius. I want to replicate, do what works, know what's been proven over time. And for me, that was property. Obviously, if you dig a bit further into it, we know property is on the Maslow's hierarchy chart. So it's a need, not a want. So for me, this is massive. This is like, it's an actual need. Like people need, same as having to put food in your body. If you don't feed yourself, you're going to die. Same way you need shelter to look after yourself. So you're going to provide shelter for yourself. So it's for me, that need and not want was a massive tick in the box. The other bit I loved about it is the fact that it's a physical, tangible, something I can go and touch, something I know is here in this location, physical. For me, that said it all as well. And then the last point, being able to leverage on the asset. So if you know about people that are building wealth, most people use leverage in form of lending from the banks to be able to do what they need to do to be able to make more money. So that's pretty much, to put it simple, those three things were the reason why I got into real estate and why I thought that would be the vehicle to push me forward.
Now that's
love it.
What's quite funny? We did an episode about stocks and properties, and it sounds like
I enjoyed those three. All of them were top. That's good.
It sounds, from your explanation, it sounds like Shiwell and P needed you on that episode.
Need to tag you in.
It was 3-0. I was counting. At the end of each episode, we were counting. And I know for a fact it was either 2-1. I can give you a 1, but it was definitely 3-0. So
I can from the outside. It was definitely 3-0 to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Alfred. Alfred, thank you very much.
It's very biased based on you guys' portfolios. But,
Ollie, the fact that we recorded that quite a few episodes back, and now with this episode you're still bringing it up, that clearly means we've won, bro. We're still we're free in your head.
No, I'm bringing it up because it seems like you guys needed that extra help. But no, one of the things you mentioned initially was that you wanted to be wealthy young. What does wealthy mean to you? Because I think so many people can think about it in different ways, from owning assets, from having income. But for yourself, what does wealthy actually mean?
Wealth starts from knowledge, or we can say even health. So first, you as a body individual, your body, looking after yourself, then knowledge. So those are a massive factor in kind of trying to actually attain wealth. So knowledge will obviously come about ways of which you can go about getting assets, which obviously in effect then relate to your wealth or net worth, if you want to call it that. So for me, I think even knowledge is more important than actual physical asset, because I always say, look, I can pass, like, this is something I'm going to write in my will. Whoever takes on the will, my kids, whatever, they have to be knowledgeable. I can't give you a £1 billion asset base and you're just going to think, oh, this, you have to know how this stuff works. There'll be people managing it on their behalf, but knowing is powerful. Being knowledgeable is powerful. So the asset base alone isn't enough. You can destroy it. It can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing. So be knowledgeable, keeping up with the times. Because one other thing as well is what I know today that might not be applicable in 50 years time, in 100 years time. So are you following the up to date and the latest information of how to invest in these vehicles and how to utilize this to be able to keep generating that money it was making 20, 30 years previous, if that makes sense. So for me, knowledge is probably the biggest driver in being able to actually build wealth. And that's where people need to focus on the most. And naturally, once you acquire knowledge, you come from a place of value and therefore can go away and implement that information to then build the wealth itself by form of physical assets or digital assets now, whatever. Yeah.
No, I love that explanation because I think a lot of people focus on the asset element of it. But you're like, if I have that knowledge, you can start me off at zero again. I can build that back up based on the knowledge.
Literally.
So love that.
Alfred, you mentioned earlier that you were contracting at Jaguar Land Rover, and I'm sure you're earning some good money. And at that age, the money isn't small. It's not a trivial amount. It's quite significant. So how has the transition for you to become a full-time entrepreneur, and what has the challenges you faced been? And how have they possibly positively surprised you? And in that, how's your mindset shifted?
Yeah, it was a hard one for me in the sense when it actually happened, my contract got terminated. I was working in future projects. So the norm was, well, COVID had happened and they were like, well, great, Alfred, you're working on this project. It's like delivering in 5 years time, but we don't know where we're going to be next year. So for now, we're going to have to terminate all your contracts until further notice. Obviously, once things get better, we'll let you know. To this day, I've never had a phone call. Never had it is what it is.
Yeah.
It was a blessing. Honestly, guys, it was a blessing, guys.
That's their loss, Alfred. Their loss, bro.
Definitely their loss for sure. Because I seen them commenting on my LinkedIn posts. Congrats, well done. So yeah, definitely their loss, mate. Definitely their loss. But I know I appreciate all of them. They got me to a certain level. It's time for me to elevate and move on. So it is what it is. It's just natural progression. But yeah, at the time, obviously challenging times, not really knowing where to go next, because literally this was like at a point it was $5 grand a month. I was earning like 2.5 each every 2 weeks. Again, you're getting paid every 2 weeks. So it's like going from that to then going to zero overnight, literally zero overnight, no income. And at a point I was going for a project, I was hemorrhaging cash into that. Because now I think of doing these projects, literally for 6, 7, 8 months, you just every month, every week even, some money's coming out your bank account to support that either refurb, the purchasing, the acquisition of it, whatever. So it's quite capital intensive with the property strategies I was doing. Yeah. But at a time, I think I was fortunate in a sense. I'd leveraged my network by form of social media. I was starting to build some sort of track record, I guess, by form of documenting my journey. So it kind of helped me kind of transition from the contracting world into the property sector and kind of doing that full time. But it was hard in a sense. Obviously, at work, you've got a structure in terms of meetings. Because I was project manager, literally, my day is set. I've got meetings here, go to there, go to this site. So I'm just following that structure and just either chairing the meeting or just sitting in the meeting and directionally giving advice, whatever. To now go into not having a calendar, kind of having to structure my own days, which was challenging because now you've literally got 24 hours of your time back. Like, what would you do with that time? How would you fill in the gap? And again, I lean on to people that have gone full time. I'm always massive on leveraging people. Probably Fred, you're probably catching on to. So again, I just found, okay, I know you've been doing this full time for a year or 2 years, whatever. How have you been doing it? So I started booking meetings with people that have been doing this for a year and stuff, kind of getting the structure of how they kind of managing their day to day, to then be able to imitate that. Again, not trying to literally reinvent the wheel. I want to copy and paste, listen to things that I can resonate with and go and implement that for myself as well. So that's what I did to kind of help me transition. And obviously off the back of that, I've now got a lot of time on my hands, so I can now ramp up the volume of works projects. And that's what in effect happened, because now I've lost the salary. And to be fair, my initial like go-to thing was to the master. I have this property mastermind group that I basically created out of fear, because I was like, okay, I'm knowledgeable. I have knowledge, so thank God I invested 25 grand, so that paid off. Now I can come from a place of knowledge, I've got experience, so I can in effect sell that information by form of creating a mastermind group where people can leverage off me, and obviously we can leverage off the group itself as well. So that's what created that group, and that's gone on for like 2 years now. It's still running. Great group, great network. So that, yeah, for me, that was one little creation that kind of, it wasn't massive, but it was instant income that I could kind of generate by having a form of recurring monthly income. So that's what I did. And I've kind of grown that to a sizable group now, which I'm looking to even grow further in the next year. So then coming back to property, it was now ramp up the viewings, ramp up the raising investment to try and get a deal flow strong, to keep the team occupied, to be able to literally finish one project to move on to the next. So it was a natural progression from there on to kind of just scale up, because now, like I said, I've got all the time in the world to kind of focus on this and make this really, really work. So that's what I did in essence. So I hope I've answered the question. I'm sure there's some bits I might have missed because it was a lengthy one.
Yeah, just like always, just skating through gems, just gem after gem. I want to, Alfred, to what you're talking about is double down on your mindset during that period, because I think there are many individuals in that position where they have the ability, they have the talent, they have the range, but they're hesitant to make that move, right? What were some of the things going through your head when you was in that position where they said we're no longer going to renew your contract, right? What are some of this like conversations you're having with yourself to push through and persevere?
To be honest, I was smiling when they said it. Like I was like, "This is perfect." Don't get me wrong. The money element obviously was like a later realization, because I'm like, okay, now I'm waking up tomorrow or like in a week's time and there's no paycheck coming in. So like then at that point it's like, okay, I'm literally making no money. I didn't make no money today. I didn't make no money this week. I didn't make no money this month.
Right,
so
right.
that realization setting later on. But at the current time, I was like, okay, great. You know what? I'm going to run with this. I've got a project going on. I'm looking at a few more. Let's just run with it. So for me, I didn't kind of like, obviously don't get me wrong, it's still an impact in the sense, mate, you have no income. But I had that self-belief to say, okay, I can go forward and push this now, because I always said to myself, would I have ever let that salary go? Because it was an easy job, money was coming in, didn't really need to kind of, like, I wasn't stressed at work, I wasn't over, like, do you know what I mean? It was, I could have balanced the two if I needed to.
Yeah.
So I think I'm glad my hands was forced to allow him to be able to grow in the property space. Because if it didn't, mate, I probably still would have done it. Because I actually kind of envisaged to have left by November that year. So
later on, yeah.
But would I have? I don't know. I think probably not. It's a comfortable income. Why would I let go of that salary, if that makes sense? So I'm grateful for that. But mindset wise, I just have a network of people around me that if I feel down or I feel like I need some support, I can tap into that to boost my energy back up and my self-belief. So there's a few phone calls I definitely had at the time saying, look, guys, I've lost my job, kind of restructure this. Again, I always say, go have a meeting with yourself, get in a quiet room by yourself, piece of paper on there. It's now like literally you and this paper. What can you come up with? What ideas you have in your head? What could you potentially like make happen? Even if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it, just write the idea down and then go and brainstorm further on from there. So that's kind of the mindset shift I kind of had at the time. I didn't think, oh, let me go and pick up my CV and tidy that up and reapply that. I'm like, what's the
That's funny.
I was like, nah, the CV stuff, I ain't seeing you again, ever again. So it's left that one. Let's double down on how can I grow the property portfolio from where it is to wherever I want to get it to, and come up with a plan around that. How can I go about raising more money to allow me to scale? Because again, that's the next problem. So it was literally problem solving. How do we move forward from here? These are the problems. What's the steps I need to take to get me to come out of this problem, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, a real blessing in disguise. I think it would be good if it would be interesting actually if you had some of the guys on this call here. If we were in that position where effectively you've been let go, it forces you to think about alternatives. So yeah,
and
most
I think
people don't see it that way.
No, P, and I think that's quite good, because I think we've all been through potential restructuring, right? We've talked about what like our company potentially letting us go, right? And it's from your explanation, it sounds like you were already sort of like, okay, I've got this project going on, I'm gonna focus fully on this project. But in terms of, had you already been thinking about like a transition date prior to that notice? Because for you it sounded like, let's go. Yeah, I think most people, if you hadn't already said, okay, let me, because I'm talking about myself, right? If I hadn't thought about, okay, I'm focused on this property, this project, I most likely would have brushed up my CV, tried to look for another job, and then sort of transition. But it sounds like you already in your mind had a date of, okay, I'm going to transition prior to that notice.
Yeah, so I'd kind of envisaged being able to transition out of work by November that year. So towards the end of the year is where I would like to ideally have been able to hand in a notice. But to come back to the point, would I have?
Yeah.
it's very hard. Do you know, it's actually a hard thing to say no to money. Oh, I don't know. You say nobody says no to money. So, and like I said, in my case, I didn't feel like I was being pressured so much. I didn't feel like I was really working 40 hours a week, like hardcore. Like no, I was very, very flexible. From my point of view, is management, very high level. Present to some directors once a month, some presentations here and there, mainly meetings. So it's very easy for me. I was good at my job. I don't know, maybe I was effective with it, I don't know. But I didn't feel like it was massive pressures on me. So I don't know if I would have let it go. But I'm happy that it did happen the way it did, because that allowed me to now appreciate the time that I had and what I could do at the time. To be fair, I always knew, like I always kept saying to my friends, like, if I had all my time, I would be doing a lot more. I know for a fact I could do more than this guy. I'll kind of be comparing, like, look, I can do more, like, because if I had 24 hours, what's stopping me? Like, I'm waking up when I'm doing this one thing, trying to get more deals, raise money. Why would I not do more? I have that self-belief, I have that self-confidence, I have that knowledge base to be able to go and deliver on that. So it's now, if I have it, let's go with it. Why would I look back?
Love it.
Yeah. Alfred, sorry, I wanted to before P, I just want to quickly ask something, because it's something we spoke about before on investing in ourselves, and P's been an advocate about that in previous episodes. Alfred, I saw on your Instagram a while ago about the amount you've invested in yourself.
Yeah.
Can you share that figure with everyone on, us and also our listeners?
Speak on it.
And because it's very important, because it's not a small amount. And the 25,000 you mentioned to some would be a lot, but the figure that I'm sure you're about to share isn't that amount. So can you just kind of share the amount, and also what's encouraged you to continue investing in yourself?
Yeah, so it's just under 50 grand, and it's a growing number. So like, to be fair, I want to invest more. It's just at the moment I'm hemorrhaging a lot of capital into this property stuff. But I'm always an advocate on finding the best person in the space and getting advice from them, or getting a one-to-one with them, because the way I see it is, if I can learn something from that and that information is valuable, the information I have today, like I made the post about, or people are laughing at me saying, well, I just spent 25 grand. I'm like, well, now I can make 25 grand a month based on just outside of the asset I have, just based on my knowledge, my individual. If I even didn't have those assets, I could start today a course, whatever I want to do, a mastermind, and charge, even mentoring. People are begging me to mentor them, and I just don't have time for that. Yeah. So it's that value you're seeking, to be able to then come from a place of value to them, therefore transact in the form of exchange of money, because you have value. People want to pay for your time. There's all these things. So for me, it's like, the more valuable you are in the marketplace, the more your earning potential is. It's as simple as that. So always seeking to know more. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one to kind of spread myself thin in terms of wanting to know every single strategy that's out there. I'm very, like, in a sense, narrow-minded, in a sense. If I want to target one thing, that's all I need to know. So if it's HMOs, I don't care about buy-to-lets, I don't care about service company, I don't care about rent rent. I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't want to hear about that. I'm not interested. I just want to hear about HMO. So I'm very, like, fixated. I'm very focused in that sense, and I don't want distractions. Like, I have friends in all types of spaces: crypto, SBA, FBA, let's see, FBA, selling stuff. So all these, there's so many multiple ways of making money, but you don't need to get involved in every single strategy. Maybe if you're young, going to explore the strategies that are out there, opportunities are out there, then fair enough. But I'm at an age where I feel like there's only certain things I'm interested in anyways. So find out what that is, get very clear on that, and now become the master in that space. Look to dominate, don't look to compete as well. That's another thing. You want to be aggressive with it. It's not for everyone, I get it, but if you're like me, you got to drive, you got the ambition to do so, you got to be able to, like, look to dominate and not compete.
Yeah. Alfred, just quickly, why HMOs for you versus other type of real estate?
Yeah. So very simply, there's no like clever thing about it. So it was coming to a realization of, okay, what are my goals? What do I want to get out of property? What's my outcome for investing in property? And initially for me, it was about simply replacing my income. And the fastest way, the quickest way for me to get to there, by a form of ownership, because I didn't want to do any sort of leveraging, lease options, or all that stuff, rent to rent. I wasn't interested in that. So for me, it was buying the property day one. And there was either the buy-to-let option or the HMO option. And for me, it was HMO option simply because it had a high cash flow strategy. So kind of relative to my income, if I wanted to kind of replace $5,000 a month, we're looking at about 2 to 3, whatever, free properties, call it that, of HMOs, to allow that to replace my income. So that was the going in mindset point of why I chose HMO. So yeah, nothing clever. Again, I looked for the dating points, which has been proven over time, and found a strategy that works, and wanted to become the expert. Not even necessarily the expert, but become the guy in that space to be able to deliver on that.
Love it. So then maybe I can piggyback on that answer, Alfred. And I think you mentioned a couple of things about the laser focus and dominating a space. And I think in the earlier part of the episode, you spoke about this next chapter that you're working through now regarding the business acquisitions. And you've focused on a specific type of revenue and also a specific type of business. You mentioned the haulage industry. So now basically looking into the business acquisition that you're going into next, walk us through your thinking there. Why is it that you're specifically looking for what you're looking for, and what have the learnings been so far in the discussions you've had?
Yeah, so just to kind of put context around it, so the mergers and acquisition side of things, I actually learned that, I got exposed to that, let's say, probably early days of my property investment journey, but I knew I couldn't get into that space just yet. So it was, for me, it was a matter of time. I wanted to build that foundation, which is the property portfolio, the income it produces, to allow me to then go on to do this bigger stuff in that space. Because again, it takes time, effort, all that stuff, and you can't do that if you haven't got a base, is the way I see it. And there's no better solid base than a property portfolio with income from a multiple let point of view. So that's what I wanted to build to start with. Post that, getting to that point, then it's like, okay, bang, I'm there now. Who do I need to tap into? And there was a guy, Carl Allen. So search him if you guys are interested in mergers and acquisitions. There's a few names out there, but for me, the guy that resonated with me the most was a guy named Carl Allen. Tapped into him. So Dealmaker Society is who I'm working with. I've got a mentor program with them to kind of gain the knowledge and again the network of people actively doing this on a day-to-day basis. So now I got myself immersed in that space. I'm a masterminds in that space, so reviewing deals all the time to get familiar and seeing how people are structuring the deals, what to do and what not to do. So it was a natural progression, and in parallel learning about that. So don't get me wrong, I'm not always doing property. There's always some proportion of the day that I'm learning. Even now, I'm still learning. Every day I'm learning. So I'm always going through stuff, learning, acquiring new information in the space that I'm actively in. I don't need to, like I said, I'm not like this M&A. I can look IPO, I can look, but I'm not doing that yet. So there's no point in me. I know of it, but I don't need to look at that stuff just yet. Now I want to do LBO, which is leverage buyouts. So leveraging the companies that you're buying by from a balance sheet, that's assets that they have, and also any receivables, you can leverage that as well. So that's how you go about acquiring. So similar to property, and this is why I know I'm going to do well in it. Don't know anything. It's the same principle. You've got, in effect, business. This business is the asset. It has some machinery, stationery, whatever you call it, hard assets that you can potentially leverage, and also the cash flow of the business as well. You can leverage to be able to structure a deal whereby maybe you pay 50% on day one and structure the rest over a number of years by form of earnout with the seller. Obviously, it's all circumstance based. You can't go to a 30-year-old and say, I want to buy a business. Maybe everyone has a number, don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, the deal won't stack. So what I'm looking at is people that are looking at retiring from the business, have done it for 30, 40 years. They've built this amazing business, very strong profit-wise, great second-tier management. Again, the 3 to 5 million figure number is kind of a sweet spot in terms of, at that level, there genuinely is a second-tier management whereby the owners aren't necessarily in the business. Because I'm not coming to be a business owner, I'm a business investor. I'm coming in simply to literally buy this business, look at other businesses onto it to improve its profitability in terms of the synergies across the two companies, resource will get merged, there'll be roles that will be duplicated. So just alone, cost of sales, cost of sales will decrease, and therefore profit margin, bottom line, will look higher. So just little tweaks like that, nothing crazy. Obviously, the sales and marketing to increase the revenue, generally speaking, anyways. But not even looking at that. That's an additional plus. So nothing creative. Again, these are proven stuff. People have done this, so it exists. It's not. I'm not a genius. I didn't come up with this stuff. It's not new news. It's just hidden. It's hidden from us. But I found it, and I'm going to spread it. So hence, I'm here sharing it, and I will be documenting it on my YouTube channel as well. So I know right now my YouTube channel is more property focused, but I want my YouTube channel to be more about me as an individual, what I'm up to, what deals I'm doing, what I'm learning, what I'm finding out, and just putting that information out there, and hopefully people can go away and build on that information, if that makes sense.
Nice.
Love it, Alfred, and I think the fact that you're sharing it on this episode, and as you've referenced your YouTube channel, which we'll make sure we'll add all the links to the show notes. I think you're living that as well, spreading the information. Hopefully through this channel as well, we can add to that spreading. So I think Olu, you had a question as well, right?
Yeah, no, just building off sort of your YouTube and your social media presence. How much impact has that had on your journey? Like, why did you decide to even document it, and how is that impacting you in the property space, especially?
Yeah. So again, similar thread. People were doing it, getting great success from it. People are using their social media platforms to raise it, and use that as a form of leverage to raise money by form of building credibility, showing knowledge base, showing a network that supports you and believe in what it is you're doing. So I wanted to emulate that. Literally, there's nothing genius about it, but literally for me, that was the reason why I said yes. This is absolutely must. I must do this. There's no other option but to be out there. So it's a bit uncomfortable thing. Starting out, obviously, you're like putting yourself out there. If you're not kind of want to video yourself, my first YouTube video, I don't even know if you guys realize, but the amount of takes we had to do just to get the one. I mean, it's like 8 minutes long.
I know about that life, man.
Yeah,
You should have seen my first podcast.
Yeah,
Our first podcast, P had multiple takes.
Because I think you understand the importance of like clear communication and the impact that it has when it's actually published. So you're really working to make sure it's refined, because you don't want to put out just anything. But what that does is when you're actually recording, it means several takes. So you have to give props to people that create content. It's not what
it's a hard thing, but it definitely gets easier as you go along. So the more practice you get with anything in life, the more often you do it, the better you get at it. So obviously, now obviously I'm pushing a lot of content out, but literally the driver was to be able to leverage that. And for me, COVID, like I think there was no other way I could have built the portfolio I've built to today, raise the money I've raised without my social media. So hence the power of social media. You can be in your house and someone across the world can see your content. I can't, go and present myself to individual people face to face. It's a slower way of doing it. So hence leveraging the social media. Like was it Daniel that said, what's it called? I saw your sponsor's post.
working.
Doing this job. And that's literally it. I want someone across in Hong Kong, Dubai. Like, that's where the real money is at. So I'm trying to even get those guys to see me and see like my drive, my ambition. And because I know these guys are looking people that they want to back, like financially back them. And I always say, like, opportunity, if you come from a place of knowledge, a place of value, if someone can see that, literally, it just takes one person to change your life. My screensaver says one contact away from literally your life changing in effect. Because that one person can literally put you in contact with people that can now support your vision in terms of funding, whatever expertise, opening doors for you, giving recommendations, whatever it is. So it's true. Getting yourself out there, you just never know. I'm very vocal about what it is I'm doing. I don't care who's listening. I don't know who's listening. I put it out there. If someone doesn't come back, at least I know I put it out there. And then just because raising money, I put it out there. Sometimes nothing comes back. Sometimes a lot comes back. So you're just putting yourself out there to be able to, in effect, create an opportunity which you then grab. So without putting yourself out there, so people's like, I'm trying to raise money. I'm like, who around you knows you're trying to raise money? Like nobody. I'm like, well, that's why you're not raising money. you got. If you want to create an opportunity, you got to put yourself out there to grab that opportunity in the first place.
Yeah.
So, for me, social media, massive. Can't thank it enough. I want to grow it even more. Next thing, I need to get verified. Then I'm trying to blow the account to 1 million followers. Quality over quantity.
I think you can apply for that. I think you can apply for the verification.
Yeah, nice.
It's on. I wanted to double down on the social media because this wouldn't happen without social media. And I think I'll even go.
I met you guys. There you go. I'll lay you.
I got one step further because, and you can speak on this, Alfred, at some point. To finance the deals that you've been doing, you've been raising finance from individuals. Hence, social media has been a big engine for that. But I think what's key, and that most people don't know, is that we've actually lent you money, right? Myself, Shuol, and we've never met you, right? But going back to Daniel's point or Olu's point, we lent you money based on what you showed in your story, what you've been documenting, right? So I think that's a very important message to send to people that are thinking about you know, what do they want to do over the next coming years, and the importance of documenting that journey, because someone's always watching. And so if you wasn't that transparent, I wouldn't feel like I could trust what you're doing enough to then share with you and then have that loan agreement. So I think that's it's a real important piece to add on the power of social media and connecting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, COVID, like everybody was indoors. There was no way I could meet anybody physically, so we had to get creative, and the power of social media became even more prevalent. Like you had to be on social media as a business person, entrepreneur, whatever. If you wasn't marketing online, this was the time. And the other benefit as well is everyone being home. There was a lot of eyes on the internet, on social media platforms. So this is the best time to kind of get yourself out there and grow. So I took advantage of that, and yeah, I am where I am because of what I did. So yeah.
Hey, Alfred, so I've watched quite a few of your other interviews, and I want to ask you a slightly different question outside of property, outside of business. But
Cool.
who are you outside of those spaces? Like, what are your interests? I want like our listeners to get to experience what you do for fun outside of this. I just want them to understand who you are outside of sort of the property.
It's just about the money, cuz. Why are you asking that?
I hope for you, Pete, it's not all about the money, because you're a father, your husband, you know, there's other.
I'm saying. Go ahead, Alfred.
Obviously, so I do have fun. Like, he'll think I work hard. Trust me, I play even harder. Like that's the honest truth. Like in the next few weeks, because I'm going on holiday. But I play a lot harder than I work. Trust me. When it's time to play, it's time to play. When it's time to work, I'm really down to work as well. So I'm hard working, all of that. But yeah, for me, outside of like, if you want to talk about property, business, whatever, I'm mainly like, do you know what it is? It's actually quite hard these days to kind of do things, because I always kind of have to have a meaning for what it is I'm doing. So, for example, don't get me wrong, like if I'm catching up with my old school friends, yeah, we're having a link up, that's fine. But even that, the conversations can't just be like about nonsense. It needs to be kind of like directional in terms of what we're doing, guys, what we're up to, what challenges we're facing, any help you guys need, that kind of stuff. I'm not here to talk about girls and all that stuff. I'm not interested. But yeah, I watch football, but even that, like, I'm selective with my time. I'm thinking as well, like, I'm watching football, I'm watching you guys play. You guys are collecting $300 a week.
Trust me.
and I'm there watching you lot, and I'm not making nowhere near you. So I have all these things in my mind. Like nowadays, I find it so hard to kind of just chill and think like I'm just not doing anything. Because I feel like, what am I doing? Like, so even if I'm going to like some sort of networking or like a social event, there will be some sort of business conversation had. I don't care. I don't care wherever you are. But it's hard. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I do have fun. So on a night out, go out, drinks. But even that, there'll be some sort of business conversation. It'll always come back to like feel the money. It'll come back somewhere somehow, whether I like it or not. And again, it depends what friendship group I'm with, as well. So if you know me, I've got different types of friendship groups. There's ones that I literally we're just here to party, nothing else business related. And there's some ways like the only conversation we are having is what's next, where we're going next, what opportunities, what do you think about this market opportunity, what do you think about what's going on here. So it's just who you're around. But generally speaking, I love to socialize. I love to meet new people. I love going out, meeting people. That's me. That like I can do that all day long. I can walk in a room and socialize. It's not. I'm free talking, free spirit. Just want to have fun, get to know people, and that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Alfred, what's your football team?
United, all the way.
Well, I can see why you don't watch them much. Same as me. Yeah.
You know what it is? It's not. You know what it is? Like, obviously, United not having the best of seasons, but we're still working. We're working. I'm actually going there tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm going to see the Champions League. Again.
Okay.
I got invited. Come watch the match. I'm like, yeah, I'll come to Manchester.
I'll talk business there as well.
Yeah, of course, mate. Of course.
No, I was going to say, I love the answer, because what it does, it speaks to how you value your time, right? You've priced your time, and you're saying, look, wherever I go, I'm going to make sure that it's valuable for both me and whoever I'm speaking to, right? So someone may listen to that and say, oh, this guy's serious, but this is what it takes. This is what it sounds like, right? When you're on your pursuit to excellence and you've got targets that you want to reach. So I think it's very important to sort of display a bit more of that mindset. Love it.
Yeah, and I'll say as well, don't feel shy to kind of tell your friends, like, stop talking about this. Like, why are we talking about this?
Trust
me. Be the person in the group to be the bigger person. It's like, look, we're grown, right? We're we're actually growing up. Like very soon have kids, married, all that stuff. If we're not already, like, why are we not talking about how we can better ourselves? Why are we not talking about how we can create a business venture together? Why are we not talking about, like, do you know what I mean, traveling the world, exploring other places, meeting new people? Like, why is that not the topic of conversation? Do you get it? So I'm not here to gossip about someone else's, like some footballer or some celebrity or music artist. Like I could not give a so much.
yeah, love it. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be cool because I'm trying to keep myself cool because I echo every point.
But no, Alfred, thanks for sharing that. I think before we start to walk into the final 5 questions, I'm probably just going to ask the guys if they have any other questions that they would like to hit Alfred with.
Good on my side, man. Thanks.
Just one question from my side. You're gonna love this.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? From a wealth standpoint, right? And I know you're not gonna hold back, so go ahead.
So I'm just to kind of put in context. So I'm 29 now, so 39. If I've not touched a bill, I'm very, very close. Like a deal away, like close enough to at least touching a bill. Like, because I see as why not? It's been done before. I'm trying to get in rooms where people are doing those stuff to kind of get to those levels. I've already had conversations about kind of getting to that level. What does it mean? I've met billionaires. I've met one billionaire face to face. Had a conversation with him. So I'm trying to be in that space to allow myself the opportunity to get to that position. So it's not going to come like by me doing nothing. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices, but I'm willing to get there. I believe it's necessary, especially people like us. We need to step up. It's been long, so it's our turn now. Let's take over.
100%.
Love it.
What?
No, I
one.
think...
Go ahead, sure.
No, PP, go ahead.
No, I was actually going to say, someone listened to that and thought this guy's chasing $1 billion by 39. Like, wow, and it's going to help to expand their horizon and their thinking, right? I wanted to ask you, was there one experience in your life that made you say, I need to be wealthy because of what I've just experienced, or I'm non-negotiable. I'm going to be wealthy because of this. And if that was an experience, could you share what that is or something along those lines?
Yeah, and it was this guy. Another shout out to Carl Hart. This guy. So I think
Carl.
Go on, say it. So what you say?
No, I know Carl's all here. But
okay, perfect. So yeah, so I've never met the guy before. We're at this networking event. Comes, does an intro. We're just chatting. There was a billionaire guy speaking. I can't forget his name. David McCourt. He was the guy speaking again. So he actually turned. He normally never turns up to this networking event, but because this guy was turning up, he was in conversation with that person. So he turned up to meet the guy face to face. And then just as talking, he was like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to become a billionaire. But this was the first time for me. When he said that, I was like, put back a bit. I was like, you're like the first. I think my next words were like, you're like the first person that's ever said to me, like just in a friendship circle or whatever, in a conversation, that they want to become a billionaire. Like, and he's like, mate, you need new friends. Come hang around me.
like that.
So for me, at that point in time, I'd always thought of like building wealth, probably hundreds of millions, but never kind of even crossed the mind of the bill mark. Like, and at that point, that's what made me trigger, like, why not? And obviously, post even that actual talk, the guy speaking who's made a few billions, speaking on it, I was like, why not? This should be a thing. Like, why shouldn't we be aiming for this? What's wrong with that? Like, why wouldn't you want to be able to impact millions of lives? Because another thing people don't appreciate, by hitting that bill mark, you potentially put food, shelter, whatever you want to talk onto like millions and impacted, even not billions of people on this planet. And that's an amazing thing and something you should be proud of. Like, why would you not want to help and impact and change people's lives at that level? So that's the way I see it. The impact to other people's lives, obviously, which in natural effect will give you wealth, but wealth is kind of, it doesn't really mean anything. It's what's the real benefit around people, the family, the wider network.
Love it.
Great. I think Alfred, there's so many gems here that our producer Nandi's going to struggle to know which clips to make. So, Nandi, good luck with that. By the way, if you need any help, just let us know. But no, Alfred, I think so much value, and I think for everyone, the amount of money that you've invested in your self-development Alfred, has come through in buckets and spades, I think, in this episode to all the listeners. So I think this isn't just a normal Take Flight interview that we're doing. This is an episode that someone has invested a lot of money for us to basically get this information for free. It's just on us to take the action. So no, great discussion, Alfred. I think before we close out, we'll have our quick fire 5-round questions, which we ask all our guests. You ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, perfect. Let's go. So, first question, Alfred. What is the worst piece of advice that you've received?
See, I don't know if I could even answer that question like properly. I think I can say the worst opinions, like what people have said to me. I can say multiple even. But like, yeah, like for me, the 25K was probably the biggest point, because for me it's like there was a lot of negativity around why would you do that? How does that make sense? But it was just kind of blocking all that stuff out and believing myself that I can go and make this happen and taking a chance on myself. Because I said at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to have to go and deliver on this, not you guys. And for me, I love a challenge. I love to prove people wrong. So you just give me more fuel when you kind of doubt me and my ability to be able to do this. Even the M&A space, like, oh, how are you going to buy a business revenue in 5 million? I'm like, people do that today. Like, you just don't know. And that seems foreign to you. Like, I always say fear comes from a place of unknown. Like, when you don't know something, that's your go-to place. You're like, no, this is not right. Once you're knowledgeable, you're not fearful. Like, it's all calculated risks.
Shout out that person that gave that advice, man, because that person set a fire, a light inside you. But no, shout out him. But then building on that, Alfred, question number 2. So what is the best piece of advice you've received? You've shouted out a lot of mentors and coaches, etc. But what's the one best piece of advice you've received if you have to figure out just one piece?
Do whatever it takes. I think that for me has been a driver. The ability to keep going even when times are hard. Can't really necessarily even know the roadmap to how you get there, but just still working through it and doing literally whatever it takes to get to that end goal. So I think that for me is a fundamental principle in me. I will do whatever it takes to get to my end goal. There's nothing that's going to stop me. Nobody can stop me. Hence, like, I'm just very open, because I feel like there's nothing you can do to stop where I'm going, basically. I don't care what you have, what resource, there's nothing. So yeah, for me that's been massive.
Perfect, love it. I mean, I think that comes through in all the answers and from all our interactions as well outside of the podcast. So question number 3, Alfred, a piece of content you're loving at the moment. So this can be book, digital media, video, etc.
Who, not how. I've read a few books. I think I'm gonna put a book, but Who, Not How. And again, it's the mindset shift of not having to figure everything out yourself and finding who is the best person in that space, who's the expert in that space, and leveraging them. Because this is probably the gem, the biggest gem you can get. You want a shortcut life? Find someone that's already done it. That's it. Find someone else who's already done it. Either imitate them, hire them, bring them on board, whatever you want to do. Find someone who's already done it. That's how you shortcut life.
Love it. Thanks, Alfred. So that's Who, Not How.
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote it, but I'm sure if you type it in Google or whatever, just write Who, Not How book and it'll come up. But that was a mindset shift for me.
Okay, so then question number 4, Alfred. So something that you are curious about that you're learning at the moment.
So private equity and IPO, so initial public offering, those are 2 spaces. I'm not yet exposed, in the sense I'm not in that space, I'm not in that network, I'm not in no masterminds or anything like that. I know of people in that space, but I'm yet to kind of dive in that, because it's a bit like it's another level up. So it's again natural progression. That's where probably it will end up. Who knows? But I'm focusing on the mergers and acquisition side of things for now. But I would love to kind of know more in that space, because naturally, if you're buying businesses, you're growing them, you could create a group of company and then look to IPO that company in the future, and that's a real big event. You want to, so you already know. So that's kind of the probably the end goal, and at that point the world is yours.
And I'm sure that day is not very far, man. And on that day, the Ghanaian dance moves will be popping off. But then the last question, Alfred, and I think during this episode, you probably helped a lot of people thinking about flying and taking flight and taking that big jump or that big challenge. But what does take flight mean to you?
I think you kind of said it. Like, for me, the first thing that comes to my mind is taking a chance, taking a leap. That's my initial kind of thought. Like, what can you lose? Just try it. Like, there's a saying of you don't want to get to your deathbed and kind of have those doubts. What if I did that? What if I? This is why I would always want to try something, just for this. Not to try everything, but if there's something that I was curious about and I was wanting to get involved in, I would always want to know that I've tried. And if it wasn't for me, I knew that I'd made a decision. It wasn't for me, and that's done. And once the decision's made, it's done. Walk away, on to the next thing. But I don't want to have that doubt of, oh, I wish I'd done this, or look at my friends, they did this and they did that. And it's fine as well if I made a decision at a time that I did consider it, but I didn't do it, and I made a decision. For me, that's enough. As long as I made a decision and I'm happy to walk away from that decision, happy days. But if I didn't know, I didn't comment, didn't even try and even find out a bit to know, is it for me or not, I would feel that kind of, I wish I'd looked into that. So I think message here is just take the chance. You don't know what can come on the back end of that.
Great, Alfred. And I think, I mean, that was the last of our final 5 questions. I think now is just the closing messages from the guys before we close out with Daniel. But just a quick one on my side, Alfred. Just a very big thank you for coming on this interview. As P mentioned, P and I have obviously invested with you, and then I think off the back of that, we've been able to get to know each other better. I've had the chance to meet you in person and debate in a very heated debate which album is better, out of Donda or Certified Lover Boy. But that's for another podcast. But no, Alfred has been a great reference actually. As working on some of the deals that I am, he's actually been super helpful as well. So no, you are very appreciated, Alfred. Love the work that you're doing. Continue to do that. And then, from my side, thank you for all the support.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, you guys, obviously, for having me on here. Like I said, I'm a big listener of you guys anyways. I love the banter. Oli and Kabilo's banter is undefeated. Like literally undefeated. But yeah, I love it, guys. I want you guys to blow up, do bigger things, get across the world as well. So yeah, I wish you guys good luck with this as well, man.
So collectively, on behalf of Take Flight Podcast, Alfred, thank you very much for spending time with us. It's been a wonderful time to get to know you more about the incredible work you're doing and the journey and the upward trajectory that's ahead of you. So, all the best on your endeavors. But for all of our listeners, thank you for staying with us. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as always. If you have any feedback for us, you can find us on Instagram at Take Flight Podcast or email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. All of Alfred's contact information can be found in the show notes and on our social media pages. So please connect with him, follow him, and follow this incredible journey that is unfolding, and it's going to unfold even more. Until next week, stay safe, look after one another, and God bless.
Take off, take flight with you.